Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about how ecotourism can be a driving force to fund and scale ocean conservation. If you're new here, my name is Carissa Cabrera. I am a marine biologist, an ocean conservationist, an advocate, and the founder of FutureSwell, which is an ocean conservation media platform working to drive and scale solutions for planet ocean. Kind of new to YouTube. I've mainly been creating content on Instagram and TikTok for a number of years, but I know there's a place for long form discussions, and that's the role of this channel. So stick around if you want to work in ocean conservation or want to learn about the threats, the problems, and the solutions facing the ocean conservation movement right now. All right, let's get into it. I'm in Borneo, specifically the Malaysia side of Borneo, and specifically off the coast of mainland Borneo at Gaya Island. Gaya Island is within a marine protected area, the first marine park in all of Malaysia, and it's also home to a local community as well as Gaya Island Resort. And Gaya Island Resort is a small boutique hotel that truthfully is paving the way for how ecotourism can finance conservation. Now, I'm not based in Malaysia. I'm actually based in Hawaii, which is under the jurisdiction of the United States government. And the US has been facing tons of federal grant cuts and overall a mass divestment of funding towards conservation in 2025. And that has made the nonprofit organizations that we work with at FutureSwell really vulnerable. I come from a background in 10 years of working with nonprofits in ocean climate work. And ultimately, I've observed the same thing. Executive directors and founders have to spend so much of their time writing grants, writing grant reports, meeting with funders and philanthropists, making sure they're telling their stories so they can get the next pot of money to finance their work. But they're in leadership roles for a reason, and they need to be focusing on the conservation work at hand, not worrying about where the next chunk of change is coming. And so when the organizations I've been working with experienced this hectic alarm of mass federal funding divestment, it caused me to start examining what other financial models are out there for conservation and what can we use so that we can free up founder and executive directors' times while also financing conservation at scale and growing the movement even in times of political volatility. Now, I'm pretty much a skeptic, right? A lot of hotels will greenwash ecotourism and conservation, and they'll ultimately only have like a handful of opportunities for guests to even learn about the nature that surrounds them. But I've noticed it's been really different with the way the Gaya Island Resort is modeled. And when you even just check in, on the left side of the lobby table, the check-in has all of the activities, and every single one of those activities is based around conservation. We participated in all of them, met the entire conservation team, and here were the three main pillars of work that they're doing and ultimately how they're funding it. First is that Borneo is known for its vast terrestrial and marine biodiversity, and they have mangrove forests across Gaya Island. Now, mangrove forests are carbon sinks. They're habitat for juvenile fish, and they're protective coastal barriers when weather or wave surge comes. Mangroves are really important, and when you're within a marine park like this that already has protections, doing restoration work to support the forest is a huge opportunity to make sure it doesn't just get degraded or deforested down the line. So Gaya Island Resort is leading mangrove restoration work locally on the ground. They have a nursery in the middle of the resort that guests are passing by as they walk to and from their rooms and the main dining area. So you're seeing it throughout your experience. They have mangroves that are a year old, a month old, 4 years old, and guests can actually participate with planting mangrove seeds that will contribute to the nursery and ultimately contribute to the forest. I learned from the naturalists that they want to plant out the mangroves at around 20 years old, and they've only been having the program for about 10, so halfway there. But the main thing I wanted to tell you about was that they have a mangrove kayaking tour that guests can book. It's paid, and what it does is it takes you into the mangrove forest with a naturalist and an expert from the conservation team who teaches you about the importance of this forest, the biodiversity found within it, and allows you to experience it firsthand and respectfully. The best part about that is that all of the revenue from the guest paying for the mangrove kayaking activity goes back to Gaya Island Resort's conservation fund. And that conservation fund is something that the conservation team can pull from to decide what they want to use the money for as it grows. They also have free activities. So one of the things that they have just on site is a wildlife center and a marine center. Guests can visit these areas where there's marine biologists and naturalists working in the centers to answer all of your questions and learn about the species that are found in the nature that surrounds them. This is great for kids, for people who have never been to Borneo before, for you to have an expert on hand to answer questions, and they're completely free for guests. And truthfully, they're like the main thing to do here. That's what everybody wants to do. The Wildlife Center also runs daily nature walks that are entirely free. So you can go with a naturalist into the rainforest, and I don't know, we saw like 2 snakes. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So totally free, and we were there with like 15 other people. Super amazing. So that's on site. And the other part is the Marine Life Center. They run 2 main ocean conservation programs out of the center. One is coral planting and restoration, and the other one is sea turtle response, rescue, and rehabilitation. Like I mentioned, the Marine Life Center is free, so families and guests can just walk inside, ask a marine biologist about all their work, see the tanks of the coral fragments that they're growing, and participate if they want to for a fee. And that's what I thought was really cool, is that there's always a free level of engagement to passively educate guests about conservation. And then if they want to do more, there's paid engaging activities. So what we did was Bata, the marine biologist that worked with us all week, took us through the entire coral restoration planting experience. We fragmented and then planted and prepped new frags of soft corals. And then we also took grown coral frags of hard coral, acropora, and connected those plugs to a substrate or a rock that then we swam out to the coral gardens in the nearshore waters and planted them out there. The cool part was that Batsa got to show us all of the corals he's been working on growing for the past years. And so in the coral garden, you're just like snorkeling over the reef, and you can't even tell that it was a restored or gardened coral. Like, it's grown so much that it just looks like part of the reef, and that's the goal, right? And it's beautiful because it's right next to the jetty, and so as guests arrive to the resort and are walking on the pier, they can just look over the side and they see all this coral. It's actually planted coral. And our coral that we worked on is right on the other side of the pier. So all guests are going to be able to see it. Like, whoever come here, it's right there. It's so beautiful to see the ways that guests can not just participate and learn about, but actually contribute to the conservation work that they're doing. Technically, Malaysia is still part of the Coral Triangle, one of the most biodiverse and resilient hotspots of corals around the world. That means that the restoration work done here has never been more important, especially considering the changes we have in climate going forward. Gaya Island is also within a marine park, so there's no fishing, there's no extraction, exploitation, oil, drilling, bombing, and so these corals have a really good chance at long-term survival, and the restoration work is just that much more important. If you didn't know, before I started FutureSwell, I was working in animal rescue as a marine scientist. I did my graduate work focused on dolphins and whales, and then when I started working for nonprofits, I worked for an animal rescue in Hawaii that focused on seabirds, sea turtles, and Hawaiian muck seals. And I really miss that work sometimes. There's nothing like getting hands-on with animals. There is nothing like contributing directly on a one-on-one basis to recovering an individual's life. And now that I work in storytelling, I get to experience all of the beautiful parts of the broader ocean climate movement, but I rarely get to work one-on-one with animals. So this was very special for me. Gaya Island Resort has been operating a sea turtle rehab center for over 10 years. They have a partnership with the Department of Wildlife, so sea turtles that are stranded or harmed or injured can get brought here from other parts of Borneo and other parts of Malaysia. They have 3 patients during the week that we were here. 2 of them were getting prepped and ready to be released back into the ocean, and 1 just showed up the day we got here. Now, for the patients that are pretty close to being released, they're kept in a sea pen right off the pier that enters Gaya Island Resort. So guests can actually join a daily turtle talk, which is where the sea turtle biologist goes out to feed the patients, and guests can come with and just shadow and learn about the process and learn about these individuals and their stories. So we joined, and there was about a 30-year-old male and what they believe is around 10 years old. It's hard to tell the sex, but they think it's a girl. And they are ready to be released in the coming weeks. Div was our marine biologist for this experience, and he told me that he's been here the entire process that these two patients have been there. They've been here about 4 months. One of them came in emaciated, the other one came in injured, and after just a few months of care, they're ready to be released into the ocean. Gaya Island Resort uses the funds from their conservation activities that guests pay for to go back into the marine life goals that they have. They want to put a GPS tracker on the carapace of the sea turtle so they can see where it goes. And they want to grow the rehabilitation center so that they can take on more patients. And so that when the government calls them and says, we have an animal that we think that you might be able to save, they can say yes, because they have the equipment and the staff necessary to do it. I mentioned that a patient just checked in. There was one sea turtle, a large male, around 30 to 40 years old, that was found stranded near Gaya Island. And the marine biologist did an initial assessment and allowed us to watch. This was actually done just outside the Marine Life Center, so other guests got to observe the experience too. And I know that for the young kids that were there, this was life-changing for them. We watched the wildlife vet and his marine technicians administer IVs, antibiotics, and a vitamin to encourage appetite. They're doing a full health assessment to understand, but we did see them transfer the sea turtle into a larger tank, and the sea turtle's back end of its carapace was floating. Sometimes this can be called bubble butt, but there's, of course, more technical terms for this. And that means that there could be a blockage in the intestines, there could be an issue with buoyancy, and they're keeping him for observation before they make a full diagnostic assessment. Now, this is a pretty amazing funding model, right? Guests come, they learn about nature. Some of these activities that they get to learn about nature are free and some are paid. And all of the paid activity, 100% of the revenue of the paid activities surrounding nature go back to a conservation fund that Gaya Island Resort manages. Their conservation team was 15 staff members, okay? I met many of them. Some of them are tropical wildlife biologists. Some of them are marine biologists. Many of them have advanced degrees. Some of them are vets. Some of them have focused on sharks and rays. Some of them have focused on coral surveys. And all of them have extensive knowledge of the place and of the issues facing these ecosystems that guests are feeling connected to. That means they can answer any of the questions that people have, which is what makes this experience so memorable and special for visitors that come from all over the world to see Borneo and Gaya Island. Now, I had a chance to talk with the director of conservation, Justin, and I asked him, what are you going to use the next conservation fund for? And he said that he defers a lot to his team, and the wildlife vet shared that they ultimately want to get this x-ray machine that I talked about earlier, a mobile x-ray machine that allows them to do assessments on sea turtles right there on the ground in nature. Now, this resort is indoor-outdoor. You can go into the Marine Center, but this assessment that was being done on the sea turtle was just outside. They need to make sure that they have mobile and durable equipment that works to do the research that they want to be doing as well. It's not just about planting mangroves and planting coral. It's about hiring conservation scientists to do the research to deepen our knowledge about the topics that they care most about here at the resort and funding it directly. What do you think about this model of conservation funding? And is it something that you would do or that you would want a nonprofit to do? Because I've been thinking about it, and the main takeaway that I have is that I'm watching the leaders of this conservation program know where the next pot of money is coming. They're not worried about when they'll reach their goal. Maybe they want to raise more, maybe they want it sooner, but they have a foundational investment that is guaranteed through the tourism model to create opportunity for them to manage and grow their conservation programs. They're not worried. They're not stressed out about where the next piece of money is coming from. And I know that that in itself is a lot of value to founders. If you want to learn more about ocean conservation problems and solutions and the ways we're going to build a future for Planet Ocean, stick around on this channel. I hope to do more. Give me feedback on this and tell me what you want to learn about next. Thanks for being here.